You may already know about GI stasis and that it's where your rabbit's gastrointestinal tract slows down and stops moving. But do you know the difference between GI stasis and bloat? They have different causes, somewhat similar symptoms, and different treatments. One of them is more of a life-threatening emergency than the other. So knowing the differences between the two can save your rabbit's life. What's up, everybody? I'm Diane from Hollands, bringing you rabbit info and buntertainment for the past 5 years. Today's video is going to expand upon a video that I did about GI stasis a while ago, and I'll put that link up here if you would like to check it out. Recently, I attended Midwest BunFest 2020, which was held virtually this year. Got this wonderful shirt. One session in particular that stood out to me and I really felt compelled to get this information out to you guys was by Dr. Barbara Oglesbee from MedVet Hilliard, that's in Columbus, Ohio, and the video was about GI stasis and bloat in rabbits. Before we get into the juicy details, I want to remind you, please, 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 talk with your rabbit-savvy veterinarian and formulate a plan for what to do if this should happen to your rabbit. If you're not going to watch this whole video and just want the Cliff's Notes version of the differences, and you're old enough to know what Cliff's Notes are, let me say this. Stasis and bloat are similar in that they both will cause your rabbit to slow down and stop eating, and the poop will stop as well. However, with stasis, usually your rabbit will slow down the pooping gradually. It'll go from normal size and then it will shrink down into little BBs and then stop. So it will be a gradual process, usually. And with bloat, it is often very sudden. Your rabbit was fine eating last night and then all of a sudden this morning, there's no poop, they're not eating at all. Stasis symptoms are caused by an overgrowth of bad bacteria in the cecum, in the digestive tract of your rabbit. And that causes a buildup of gas and toxins, and it causes pain for your rabbit, and that pain makes them not want to eat, and it's just very cyclical. It tends to progress somewhat slowly. Bloat is caused by a blockage in the intestine. It stops the stomach contents from emptying into the intestine. You might notice your rabbit having a rumbling or gurgling in their stomach, sloshing. It's because the contents can't escape. So there is a blockage with bloat. And bloat is more of an emergency, according to Dr. Barbara Oglesbee. So that is the difference between the two. Similar symptoms. The cause is different. One is overgrowth of bad bacteria, the other is a blockage. If you have the time and are able to watch this entire video, I highly encourage you to do so. You can bookmark it, save it for later, and refer to it for reference in the future. First, we're going to talk about GI stasis, and then bloat. We're going to go over the causes, the symptoms, and the treatments for these. We are going to compare the two. I've got some nice little infographics and a chart created for you guys. And then I'm going to share with you some of the techniques and products that I use for when my rabbits get GI stasis. In order to understand stasis, we need to talk a little bit about the rabbit digestive system, and more importantly, the cecum. Have you ever wondered how rabbits can digest grass or why hay is so important to their diet? The answer is the cecum. The cecum is basically a fermentation vat. It has bacteria and yeast and protozoa, and it makes up 2/3 of the intestinal tract. That's pretty big. The cecum takes the hay and the fiber that your rabbit ingests, and it creates about 50% of your rabbit's nutrients. It constantly needs to be fed good bacteria. If it's fed sugar and carbs and treats, that also leads up to a buildup of bad bacteria. With the bad bacteria comes gas and pain and stasis. GI stasis is where the gut slows down or stops. So like I said, if there is a bacterial imbalance in the cecum, this leads to gut slowdown, gas and toxins forming, which causes pain for your rabbit. Your rabbit will stop eating. It keeps perpetuating itself in a cyclical fashion. It gets worse the longer your rabbit is not eating. The bad bacteria keeps building up, it's causing pain, and your rabbit is extremely uncomfortable. Remember, as prey animals, they are made to hide their pain and discomfort. They don't want to draw attention to themselves. So you really have to pay attention to your rabbit's normal behaviors, and you'll know when something is not right. Stasis symptoms are usually fairly gradual, so the poop goes from normal size, normal eating habits, and then they slowly reduce down to where your rabbit is pooping either little BBs and then nothing, and they're really not interested in eating anything. So then your rabbit is in stasis. Now, if you're really good, you can recognize when these symptoms are starting and nip it in the bud as soon as you can. The outcome is usually much more positive the sooner that you can address the symptoms and the cause. The symptoms of stasis include the poop shrinking and then stopping production altogether. Your rabbit will stop eating and drinking. They'll have little interest in moving. Typically, if they hop up to you when you greet them in the morning and then suddenly they're not, that's a warning bell going off that something is not right. Rabbits are often in a meatloaf position. They're kind of hunched over. They might be hiding. You might even hear your rabbit grinding his or her teeth. Teeth grinding usually happens as stasis progresses, and the pain is just so intense that your rabbit is finding ways to cope with it. Unlike bloat, with stasis, the rabbit's stomach is hard and it's shrunken. And Dr. Barbara Oglesbee was saying that this is because with stasis, the fluid is actually being pulled into the intestines, not the stomach. So the stomach with stasis will kind of be hard and shrunken. Stasis can be caused by several things. Probably the most common would be a dietary imbalance. If you're feeding your rabbit too many treats, even too many greens. I know you hear a lot of people really pushing the greens, but it really depends on your rabbit's digestive system. If you're feeding a pellet that has a lot of fillers, soy, molasses as a sweetener, just a lot of that bad junk that just doesn't ferment well in the rabbit cecum, that can lead to a bad bacteria buildup. In addition to diet, you can have issues with health, such as a tooth issue that might cause them pain and they don't want to eat, and that can lead to stasis. If your rabbit is sick or have an illness, that can cause stasis, as well as even stress. If you're changing environments, that is sometimes enough to set a rabbit into stasis. So there are lots of different causes for stasis. It's not just diet, although I think that's the most common, but illness, stress, and even dental issues can be other causes. How do you treat stasis? Like I said before, please contact your veterinarian. It's very helpful if you have a game plan prepared in advance. Talk to your vet about what if your rabbit has stasis symptoms, what does he or she suggest that you do? Do you immediately call them? Should you try fluids and pain medicines? What's the plan? If your veterinarian isn't available or you don't have a plan, here are some things that you could try. Again, I'm not a vet, and these are just my suggestions along with what I learned from Dr. Barbara Oglesbee, and please use them with caution. My vet has always told me that giving your rabbit fluids is the most important thing you can do to help reverse stasis. Now, if you take your rabbit to the vet, they will probably give subcutaneous fluids, which is injected under the skin. If you don't have access to subcutaneous fluids, then you can try giving syringes of water, or Sherwood has a product called Appetite Restore, which is kind of like a bunny Gatorade, I like to think, and it's a powder and you mix it with water and you can feed it through a syringe. Because raw pineapple contains enzymes that can help to break down matter in the digestive tract, some people have recommended giving raw, unfiltered pineapple juice in syringes. But Dr. Barbara Oglesbee highly cautioned against that. Now, according to her, the enzymes can actually cause ulcers in the digestive tract, which is already being stressed, and the enzymes can begin to eat away in there. So she really recommended against it. You can try infant gas drops, which are simethicone at about 1 to 2 cc's per hour for the first 3 hours. And again, talk to your vet about dosage. From what I've heard, gas drops are pretty benign and it's difficult to overdose on it, but it can help to consolidate the gas so that your rabbit can pass it. Remember, rabbits can't throw up like cats or dogs, so you gotta get it out the other end. Heat. If you have a heating pad or a water bottle or a heated disc, and I'll talk about those later, that can help because during stasis, often the rabbit's body temperature will be lower than it should be, and that can be dangerous. Pain relievers. So something that was recommended to me, and my vet even prescribed it for me to keep on hand, is Metacam. Metacam is a pain reliever, and in my experience, it's been tolerated pretty well with rabbits, and if you can get their pain level down, they might start moving. They might even eat or drink, and anything you can do to help stop the growth of bad bacteria and start the good bacteria and get their little digestive tract moving and pooping and eating and all that, I think it's worth the minimal risk of giving a pain reliever such as Metacam. Some people have suggested motility drugs such as metoclopramide. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. That's not something Dr. Oglesbee recommended, and my vet actually is hesitant to use something that severe when the digestive tract is already pretty vulnerable. So Metacam and fluids and heat, and then massages, an abdominal massage you want to try to get the gut working again, get that gas out, and I suggest putting the bunny on your lap, elevating your knees so that their rear is elevated. You want that gas to escape, and I will demonstrate that later. You can try exercise. Anything you can do to get your rabbit moving, that can help with the gut movement. If your vet has confirmed there is no blockage, then he or she might recommend that you give a food-water slurry, kind of a mixture of a wet food. You can feed that through a syringe. Popular brand is Critical Care by Oxbow, but Sherwood also makes a recovery food that is very similar. Finally, lots of hay. Hay and water. I suggest just hay and water for the first couple days after your rabbit is coming out of stasis. Now, stasis, according to Dr. Oglesbee, can last up to 7 days, and rabbits usually improve a little bit more each day, but slowly, gradually starting back on the pellets is recommended, and lots of hay, lots of water, and feed a good quality Timothy-based pellet. That's ideal. Dr. Oglesbee recommended about an 1/8 to a 1/4 cup of a good quality Timothy-based pellet a day for a 5-pound bunny. Now that can vary depending upon the particular pellet you're feeding, so always check the directions on the back of the bag, especially if it's a measured food. I have a video about the dangers of overfeeding a measured pellet. You can check it out. Remember, talk to your vet before stasis happens. Formulate a plan. Is your vet willing to give you a prescription painkiller such as Metacam to keep at home so that you can administer that and some fluids until you can get your bunny into the vet? What things do you need to gather at home to keep an emergency kit available? What emergency hours does your vet have? Those are all important things to figure out before your rabbit is in dire need of immediate medical attention. Finally, cut the crap. Remember, a good quality pellet, minimal treats, lots of hay. Now that you know about GI stasis, let's talk about bloat, because it is completely different in cause, somewhat different in treatment. It is more of an emergency than stasis on average, but the symptoms can be somewhat similar. There is definitely overlap. So understanding the difference between stasis and bloat is really important, and it's something I really didn't completely understand until viewing this course by Dr. Oglesbee. Bloat is a blockage. Think bloat blockage. It is a gastrointestinal obstruction. There is an obstruction in the intestines that is not allowing the stomach contents to empty. It's not related to stasis. The symptoms can be similar. Your rabbit will suddenly stop eating and suddenly stop pooping. Because the stomach cannot empty, there is gas and fluid buildup. It causes intense pain, and it is an emergency. Your rabbit can die in 6 to 12 hours. And I think this is what happened to a rabbit of mine recently. I was thinking it was stasis, and I was administering my typical treatment, and she suddenly took a turn for the worse, and she didn't make it. I'm really mad at myself because I think if I had known about bloat and stasis and the difference in symptoms and severity, I would have been able to save her. So I'm hoping that this information can save some rabbit lives. Symptoms of bloat. So like I said, it will be very sudden. Your rabbit may have been pooping a few hours ago or last night, and then suddenly they're not eating, suddenly they're not pooping. You might hear a rumbling or gurgling in the stomach. Now with my rabbit, I remember kind of a sloshing, gurgling sound, and that is something I usually don't recall hearing with stasis issues, and I didn't think anything of it at the time, but I do remember that, and that is because there is a buildup of fluid in the stomach. There is just so much fluid, it has nowhere to go because of the obstruction in the intestine. Take a look at the wonderful drawing I created for you, and you can see the obstruction there, and it's just preventing all of that liquid from draining. And I just can't imagine the intense pain that that must cause a bunny. So as it progresses, your rabbit will become cold and later kind of stiff and shocky, as Dr. Oglesbee described it. Getting your rabbit into a rabbit-savvy veterinarian immediately is the best chance for survival. Now, while you are waiting to get to the vet, getting your rabbit a heat source to bring their body temperature up can help. So a heating pad, a hot water bottle, or a heated disc, something to get their temperature up, can be helpful. Because there's no way to get the contents out of the stomach into the intestines, giving your rabbit fluids and syringes of food is a really bad idea. So getting their temperature up, getting them to the vet is the best thing you can do. Your veterinarian will likely take x-rays, administer subcutaneous fluids, IV fluids, medications to help your rabbit. They may have to empty your rabbit's stomach under anesthesia, or as a last resort, do surgery to remove the obstruction. Believe it or not, Dr. Oglesbee said that in her experience, bloat is usually caused by an almond-sized felted hairball. And this is not from ingesting fur and having it form a hairball in the intestinal tract. She thinks it's from fur that consolidates into this felted hairball in the cecum and is pooped out in a cecotrope and then consumed by the rabbit, and that's when it causes the blockage. Here is a chart that I created to summarize the differences between stasis and bloat in rabbits. Stasis is gradual, where bloat is sudden. Your rabbit will suddenly stop pooping, suddenly stop eating. With stasis, the poop will reduce in size gradually, and with bloat, it just stops. The stomach will be hard and shriveled with stasis because the fluid is going to the intestines, whereas in bloat, the stomach will be full and bloated because that's where all of the liquid is trapped. You might hear rumbling and gurgling in the stomach with bloat. Stasis tends to be more responsive to treatments such as fluids, pain relievers like Medicam, abdominal massage, and exercise. A rabbit with bloat will tend to be stiff. Your rabbit has a better prognosis in stasis than bloat. With bloat, your rabbit can die in 6 to 12 hours, and it tends to be more of a life-threatening absolute emergency compared to stasis. Bacterial imbalance is the cause of stasis, but the catalyst can be anything from poor diet to illness, dental issues, or stress. And bloat, it's a blockage. There is a physical blockage in the intestine not allowing the contents of the stomach to empty. Now that you know that bloat happens more suddenly and your rabbit will immediately stop eating, they'll stop pooping, they will have a full bloated stomach that you might hear rumbling and gurgling, and you need to get immediate treatment. Whereas stasis happens more gradually and you might notice smaller poops, your rabbit not eating as well. What are some things you can do? Well, we've already gone over fluids and exercise and massage, but I want to talk a little bit more about the different products you might want to keep on hand, such as heat sources and ways to administer fluids. And also I want to show you how I like to give abdominal massages to help encourage your rabbit to expel gas. So let's take a look at some of those before we finish up the video. Regardless whether it's for stasis or for bloat, you're going to want to have a safe way to help increase your rabbit's temperature. Of course, there is the heating pad method. You just need to be careful about the cord. If your bunny is feeling well enough to nibble on things, you want to have that cord tucked away or wrapped up with a cord protector. These are some of the methods that I like to use with my bunnies, and the first is a microwavable heating pad. This one is filled with, I believe, ceramic beads. Sometimes you can find them that might be filled with seeds or something like buckwheat. And this is what I use when I get headaches, but it's nice. You can microwave it. It has a nice subtle lavender scent, and you could even wrap this around your bunny. The only downside is it does get cool quickly, so you will have to reheat that more often. This is just a generic hot water bottle. Fill it with hot water, and it does stay hot for quite a while, and it won't burn your bunny. You can always wrap it in a towel if you think it might be too hot. And this is a Snuggle Safe disc that you heat up in the microwave, and there are directions based upon your microwave's wattage, how long to heat it up, and it has a little fleece Velcro cover that goes over it too. This does stay hot for a while. You just have to be careful not to overheat it, and you can't reheat it until it's completely cool. So these two are my favorite options, but it just depends on what works for you, what you have on hand. I will put the links below to these items on Amazon. If you suspect that your rabbit has stasis and you either can't get to the vet or your vet recommends beginning some treatments at home before you can get your rabbit to the vet, here is what I have found to be helpful. I always begin with Sherwood's Appetite Restore. It's supposed to help restore their appetite and energy, and it seems to taste really good to them, although they're usually in pain and often not that receptive to drinking this. But it's a powder that you mix with water, and then you feed it with a syringe, either the bulb syringe or whatever type of syringe that you have available. Find what works for your rabbit, and then you just want to administer that per the directions on the bag. I usually dilute this more than it says on the bag because the main goal is to hydrate your rabbit with fluids and get that gut moving and help to balance the bacteria. I often will add about 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of a probiotic powder like this, just to help get the good bacteria in their gut. If your vet will give you a prescription for Medicam, this is a pain reliever. I really do think this helps to relieve their pain and encourage them to start eating and drinking and moving around. So talk to your vet about getting something like this to help with pain relief at the beginning of stasis, or even bloat for that matter. Gas relief drops, infant gas drops, simethicone, it's all the same thing. It doesn't matter what brand you get. I would just make sure to find one that doesn't have added dyes or any other artificial flavorings, colorings. This can help your bunny to work out the gas bubbles, and it's pretty harmless. If you are certain that your rabbit does not have a blockage and that it is a stasis issue, then your vet might recommend you to feed a powdered food mix such as Oxbow's Critical Care, or Sherwood makes one too, and it's available in a different packaging now, I believe, but it's the same food. And you just mix these with water. It's basically a powdered form of the pelleted food, and it just helps to feed your bunny when they're not really interested in eating pellets or hay. But again, you want to make sure your rabbit does not have a blockage before you force feed them with a food. Once your rabbit is back eating hay, drinking water, and you're ready to introduce pellets again, make sure you are feeding a quality pellet and in the right quantities. I like the Sherwood brand pellet because it doesn't have soy, it doesn't have grain. This is their older It's a free choice food, but it has alfalfa and timothy as the base. They have a newer version in a lighter blue bag, I believe, and it does not contain the alfalfa, and it is also a free choice food. Though I personally still like to limit my rabbits to around 1/4 cup of pellets per day so that they do eat a lot of hay and get that fiber that they need. Sherwood food is available in these 10-pound bags on Amazon. I'm not sure if their new lighter blue bag that is all timothy based free choice is available there yet, but you can get it on the Sherwood website as well as bulk boxes of it from the Sherwood website. Depending on what your vet recommends, you may want to consider a digestive support tablet at times when your rabbit might be having issues, whether they're not eating as well as they used to, maybe they have been sick, maybe they're molting and ingesting a lot of fur. Sherwood has a digestive tablet, and this is the old packaging. This was just their digestive support. Now they are offering a combination pellet that's their digestive support, urinary support, joint, immune, and energy support, all in one tablet. All of these products, aside from the Medicam, which will need to be purchased through your vet by prescription, are available online, and I will put those links below. For abdominal massage, if you suspect GI stasis, sit in a chair with your knees elevated. Place your rabbit with the hindquarters on your knees, and then as your rabbit will allow, try to massage the abdomen. You want to try to work out any gas bubbles. Some rabbits will tolerate this better than others, but you want to try to get that gut moving again. So a nice gentle massage. Try to work the gas out so it can escape. Go as deeply as your rabbit will allow. And if your rabbit is not feeling well and their stomach is hurting them, their intestines will be painful, then they might really fight this. And other times, if they're feeling so poorly, this might feel good to them. It might provide them some relief. Now, this guy isn't actually in stasis, so he doesn't really know what's going on or really like it. Encouraging exercise is really important. Find an area where your rabbit feels comfortable and encourage them to hop around. And if you see poo balls, you know things are moving in the right direction. Get it? Right direction? Never mind. I'm very grateful to Dr. Oglesbee for enlightening me on the differences between bloat and stasis, and although the symptoms might overlap, there are subtle differences, and that can make all the difference in whether or not your rabbit is able to be saved from an instance of stasis or bloat. I hope you have also found this information helpful. If you have, please consider subscribing to this channel, and thank you so much for watching. If you suspect bloat in your rabbit, please contact your rabbit immediately. And then it keeps perpetuating itself in a cyclical fashion. Many of you are aware that GI stasis causes a rabbit's gastrointestinal tract, it's hard to say,